Ann Gushurst. I'm one of the partners at Gutterman Griffiths.
And I'm Kristi Wells. I'm also a partner at Gutterman Griffiths.
Well, I don't think people really think about how important choosing an attorney is. They meet somebody, they hire them, and then they've got somebody representing them, and they don't go through the process of thinking, does this person really understand what I want? Do they have the same values I have?
And it's so important when you're going through one of the hardest times of your life to have someone who's helping you get through this process in a way that really reflects how you want it to look. You could end up with an attorney who's very litigious and is constantly ramping up conflict. You could end up with an attorney who is much more collaborative, and your entire process is going to look different depending on how they see your case.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that happens is if you have somebody who's very, very aggressive, part of you probably wants that because you want to feel vindicated and you want to feel like you're getting what's your fair share. But sometimes people will pick fights that you don't need to have. And if they don't stand up for you as much as you want because they are too accommodating, you end up feeling like you didn't get taken care of. And I think that you don't know that when you're going into a case, and it's a bad feeling to feel like it didn't go the way it should have.
It's so important. And I always tell people who come in to meet with me, you really should be meeting with at least 2 or 3 different attorneys so you can really get a good fit. Because you need somebody who's not only going to be representing your interests, but somebody whose advice you're willing to follow. If you're not willing to follow your attorney's advice, it's a bad fit.
Yeah, I agree. We have 14 attorneys in our law firm, so when you say our experience, we're talking about a lot of different experiences. And I will say that we have some of the smartest family law attorneys in the state. And you know, we've got people with different backgrounds who come to family law with maybe something else in their background that helps them. I used to do insurance defense work, so I know a lot about insurance. And I used to do
executive compensation work for Fortune 500 companies. So a lot of the really complex issues that we get with respect to stock options and equity interests come my way. We have an attorney who did mergers and acquisitions work and has a lot of business knowledge, and another attorney who has, I would say, is probably the leading expert in the state on trusts. Mm-hmm. And so when we get these really incredibly complex cases, we are able to bring a whole deep bench to attacking the problem.
And I'm sure everybody says this, but our law firm is really different in the respect that we work on each other's cases. So if I have, I mean, how many cases of mine have you helped out on? Quite a few.
Quite a few.
And so when we have an issue that we are either not comfortable with or we know somebody else has a lot more experience, we will carve that part of the case out and bring that person in. And you just don't get that in other firms. You just do not. The other experience we have, you and I have, and several of the partners do, is we have been through our own divorce. And I think that changes the way you look at it, because I think a lot of people going through a divorce are either the person who wants it or the person who doesn't want it. And they have their own set of perspectives. But sometimes the person who doesn't want it feels very betrayed and really wants, even though they might not admit that they want their pound of flesh. And you have to sort of talk them back from the ledge a lot, saying like, you know, this will have repercussions for you 5 years from now when your spouse never forgives you for what you think you want to do right now.
I think it is true that having that perspective changes how you run a case. And I think especially when it has to do with children, there's a lot of feedback your attorney can give you on how is this going to affect your children? How is this going to affect how your family looks going forward if you take these steps? Right. I think that's some really valuable things that we can bring to the table.
Well, and I think, and I always say this, people do a lot of things using their children as a crutch. Like, I'm doing this for my kids, and this is really important to my children, and you also have to take care of yourself. So most of the time when people say, this is really about the child, if you tease it back, there's at least a part that's really about them as a parent. The easiest example of that is I have to be the primary parent. Well, what does that mean? Do you really mean that the other parent the kid isn't going to love that parent? They're not going to spend time with that parent? What kind of time do you want to spend with your child? A lot of working parents are spending evenings with their children, and during the day, if you've got a parent who's not working, why would you have somebody else watch the child rather than the parent who knows them the best? I mean, it just, I think sometimes there's the short game and the long game, and our job is to always point out that there are repercussions in both arenas for our clients.
Agreed. And strangely, you don't have to win every battle to win the war. And sometimes you got to pick them.
Yeah, sometimes you do.